In this week's episode, we celebrate South Africa's best in the field of science. A trendsetter from rural KZN and a young thinker with a great solution. Hello and welcome. As we start the new year, students across South Africa will be hoping to do well with their studies. Buyi Sondezi should serve as an inspiration. She went to school in rural KwaZulu-Natal under very tough conditions. But even though her school did not have a laboratory, Buyi still became the very first woman in all of Africa to hold a PhD in one of the fields of experimental physics. In the world of physical science, Dr. Buyi Sondezi is a pioneer of note. She specializes in the study of magnetic materials, testing their properties under extreme temperatures. Without a doubt, Buyi is a dedicated researcher.
If I have to get results, I need to be in the lab. If I have to be in the lab at 1 in the morning, that's what has to happen. If I have to be in the lab on Sunday, that's what has to happen.
Her work impacts several aspects of our lives, like the electronics industry. The same materials she studies will be used to build larger, faster hard drives and data storage devices, taking us further into the digital age. Remarkably, Buyi is the first woman in Africa to hold a PhD in her field of specialization. But given where she comes from, holding such a prestigious qualification could have only been a far-fetched dream.
It was not easy. It was a really tough situation for young people and also growing under the situation where there are limited resources.
In the farmlands of Nyanyatu near Newcastle, Buyi grew up very quickly. As the eldest of 10 children, she had to balance several responsibilities at once. She cared for her young siblings while helping her parents with chores and working on the farm.
She'd like to do things that I know my dad would do when dad wasn't around. So she wanted to take that responsibility that, see me, I'm a big sister, I can try this, I can do this.
As well as a busy life at home, Buyi also had to juggle expectations at school. She was an unassuming kid who understood that her education would surely bring her family a better life.
She was quiet until you come closer and talk to her. Then you'll discover her. Now, the things that she wanted, the things that she wished for.
She attended this secondary school near Newcastle. It was then that she grew to love science with a keen interest in medicine. But her school was terribly under-resourced, with no laboratory for experiments.
You needed to picture all that, to memorize all the information that we were getting. Even going into the chemistry lab was a mystery, obviously, because nothing was there.
A disciplined and studious Buyi matriculated in 1994. But her marks weren't good enough for her to pursue medicine.
When I got out of my matric, I was disappointed, and I wanted to to be named as the top 10 students in KwaZulu-Natal, and I wanted my name to be there. Unfortunately, that did not happen.
Instead, she settled for a Bachelor's of Science at the University of Johannesburg. But this perceived setback would actually become the first step in an illustrious career. In her first year, Buyi signed up for a physics course, relying on her parents' financial support and government loans.
We do get, a lot of students who are not, they sit in the back row, they don't really partake in things. With Buyi, it was a case that she came to me immediately, even before the classes had started. She introduced herself, she told me what she wanted to do.
3 years later, Buyi graduated, unsurprisingly, as one of the top students in her class.
But then I found myself doing honors in physics, and I think the reason for that was because of the influence and the way I was taught my physics by my first year lecturer, Professor Winkler. So he made things very easy for me to follow and to understand, and then I sort of fell in love with the subject.
A master's degree followed a few years later. At the same time, she was dabbling in lab research. In 2007, she decided to go for a PhD in experimental physics, an intense program that can stretch even the brightest minds.
It's most likely long hours in the laboratory and determination, especially in experimental physics, where things tend to go wrong all the time.
In 2014, after dedicating 7 years to late-night experiments, Buyi Sondezi finally obtained her doctorate. The farm of Nyanyatu in KwaZulu-Natal has now produced the first woman in Africa to receive a PhD in one of the fields of experimental physics.
It's possible to go beyond what you think you can go to. It's also possible to break the barriers, whether it's a barrier of poverty, whether it's a barrier of saying you were limited in the resources. And also you can break the barrier that science cannot be done or research cannot be done under certain conditions.
There you have it. Drop us an email and let us know what you think. againstallodds@enca.com. You can also be in touch with us on Twitter and Facebook. After the break, find out why Nobel Prize winners are excited about this KZN student.